Have you ever wondered why so many successful men, with access to everything they could ever desire, still feel a profound emptiness? Why those who, on the surface, have it all, money, recognition, even relationships, relentlessly search for something they can't even name? The answer to this question will shock you. Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychiatrist, uncovered a disturbing truth about the masculine nature, a truth completely ignored by contemporary society. No, it's not about sex, power, or status. It's something far deeper and more primal. After decades of research into the human psyche, Jung revealed a secret that explains why men today are more lost than ever. An ancestral desire, buried beneath layers of societal expectations, and when unfulfilled, it devours the masculine soul from within. This discovery will completely change how you understand the men around you, and perhaps even yourself. Prepare to uncover a truth that no one has dared to express. 1. The emptiness that success cannot fill. There's a scene that repeats itself every day in offices, luxurious homes, and high-end cars around the world. A man stares out a window. He has everything he ever dreamed of, yet he feels a hole in his chest, a void that seems to grow with every new conquest. Jung called this the modern neurosis, a disease of the soul that particularly afflicts those who have followed all the rules of the social game. What's happening is both devastating and simple. From a young age, society teaches men to pursue three things: money, power, and recognition. Succeed, parents say. Be strong, friends shout. Be productive, the world demands. And they obey. They work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. They sacrifice their families, their health, their dreams, all in the name of this sacred trinity. But here's the problem Jung discovered. These goals are external. They're like a drug for an internal wound. Imagine trying to heal a heart injury by operating on your arm. It doesn't work. It never has. And it never will. The brutal truth is that the modern man has been conditioned to seek validation where it doesn't exist. He accumulates zeros in his bank account, hoping to feel complete. He collects professional titles as if they were war medals. He competes with other men in an endless game where no one truly wins. Jung observed something fascinating in his male patients. The wealthiest were often the most depressed, the most powerful, the most anxious, the most famous, the loneliest. It was as if success acted like a reverse magnet. The more you have, the more you feel the void. The fundamental issue is that our culture has created a false version of what it means to be a man. A version based on having rather than being. A version that measures worth by numbers on a spreadsheet rather than the depth of the soul. A version that confuses movement with progress, noise with meaning. When a man finally achieves everything he's ever desired, he discovers a terrifying truth. He is still the same person he was before. The same fears, the same insecurities, the same emptiness. The only difference is that he now has fewer excuses for not confronting who he truly is. Jung understood that this emptiness isn't accidental. It's not a manufacturing defect or a personal failing. It's a signal, an alarm from the soul screaming that something fundamental is missing. It's the human psyche rebelling against a life built on false foundations. The tragedy is that many men interpret this void as proof that they need more of the same. More money, more power, more recognition. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The more they add, the bigger the fire grows. Society doesn't help. On the contrary, it fuels this illusion. Magazines show wealthy men smiling on yachts. Movies glorify the ruthless executive. Social media celebrates the entrepreneur who never sleeps. Everything conspires to push men to chase mirages. But Jung knew something few dare to admit. The emptiness is an invitation, a call to a far deeper and more meaningful journey, a journey that cannot be bought, conquered, or printed on a business card, a journey inward, toward who you truly are, not toward what the world says you should be. 2. The masculine shadow, uncovered by Jung. Within every man lives a stranger, someone he's afraid to meet, avoids looking in the eye, and keeps locked in the basement of his consciousness. Jung gave this stranger a name, the shadow. And the discovery of this hidden part of masculinity is perhaps the most unsettling and liberating revelation a man can encounter. The shadow isn't evil, as many believe. It's everything a man has learned to reject about himself. It's the anger he cannot express, the sadness he cannot share, the vulnerability he cannot admit, the creativity he cannot explore, the sensitivity he cannot reveal. From childhood, a boy receives a cruel lesson. Men don't cry. Men don't show weakness. Men always know what to do. Each time he feels something that doesn't fit this mold, he pushes it away, banishing it from the light. Over time, these rejected parts accumulate deep in the psyche, like decomposing emotional waste. The problem is that the shadow doesn't disappear. It gains strength in the darkness. It grows, feeding on denial, becoming all the more powerful the more it's ignored. And eventually, it finds a way to manifest. Sometimes subtly, through constant irritation, inexplicable depression, or a persistent feeling that something is wrong. Other times, it explodes in destructive behaviors that the man himself doesn't understand. Jung observed that the most controlled men were often the most tormented by their shadow. Those who built perfect personas, the impeccable executive, the exemplary father, the ideal husband, suffered the most from the internal pressure of this rejected facet. It was like living with an angry prisoner inside oneself. Modern society has worsened this situation. It has created a sanitized version of masculinity, clean, predictable, socially acceptable. A man must be productive but never too aggressive, strong but never threatening, confident but never arrogant. It's an impossible tightrope to balance. The masculine shadow contains not only the rejected negative aspects, but also immense untapped powers, a wild passion capable of moving mountains, a deep intuition capable of solving complex problems, a primal courage capable of facing any challenge, a capacity to feel deeply that can forge authentic connections. When a man rejects his shadow, he doesn't get rid of it. He mutilates himself. It's like trying to run with one leg tied behind his back. He may manage, but he'll never reach his full potential. He'll always live with a sense of incompleteness, as if an essential part of him has been lost. Jung discovered something revolutionary. Integrating the shadow isn't optional for those who want to live fully. It's necessary, though painful. It means stopping the pretense that you're only light and admitting you're also darkness. It means accepting that you're not just the hero of your story, but also the villain. This process terrifies many men because they fear that accepting their shadow will make them bad. In reality, the opposite happens. When you stop denying parts of yourself, they stop controlling you. When you accept your anger, you can channel it constructively. When you acknowledge your sadness, you can process your losses. When you admit your vulnerability, you can forge authentic connections. A shadow kept in the dark is dangerous. A shadow brought into the light becomes a strength. The difference between a fragmented man and an integrated man is simple. One fights against himself, the other works with all his parts. One wastes energy suppressing aspects of his nature. The other uses that energy to create and build. Jung knew that confronting the shadow was the first true step towards psychic maturity. Not social maturity, like knowing how to behave in a meeting or pay bills on time, but a deep maturity born from knowing and accepting who you truly are, with all your complexity, contradictions, and hidden potential. 3. The archetype of the wounded warrior. There's a wound every man carries, even if he doesn't know how to name it. Jung discovered that deep within the masculine soul lives a warrior, not the muscular, weapon-wielding figure from movies, but something far older and deeper. A warrior wounded in childhood, who has never fully healed. This inner warrior represents the masculine life force, the energy that should protect, build, and guide. But in most modern men, this warrior is bruised, disoriented, sometimes nearly dead. The wound appeared early when they were still children, and it has shaped how they perceive the world and themselves. The warrior's wound originates in a universal but destructive experience, the realization that he is not enough. Perhaps it was an absent father who never valued his efforts, a smothering mother who didn't let him be strong, peers who rejected him when he needed belonging most, teachers who made him feel inadequate, a society that told him his natural impulses were wrong. What happens is tragic. The wounded boy develops survival strategies that follow him into adulthood. Some become furious warriors, men who fight with the whole world because they're really battling their inner pain. Others become sleeping warriors, abandoning the fight altogether to live small, safe, but meaningless lives. Jung observed that most men oscillate between these extremes. Sometimes they explode in disproportionate anger. Sometimes they retreat into frustrating passivity. Sometimes they want to conquer the world. Sometimes they struggle to get out of bed. It's the wounded warrior trying to find his place in a world that doesn't understand his nature. The tragedy is that our culture offers no path to heal this wound. Instead, it exploits it. The market sells illusions, buy certain things, achieve certain successes, or act a certain way, and the wounded warrior will be healed. But it doesn't heal. It merely places colorful bandages on a wound that bleeds internally. The wounded warrior manifests his pain in ways society doesn't understand. He may become addicted to work, trying to prove his worth through productivity. He may seek constant validation, needing others to tell him he's good enough. He may become controlling, trying to dominate his external environment because he feels internal chaos. He may avoid emotional intimacy, fearing others will see his wounds. Jung discovered something powerful in this archetype. The warrior doesn't need to be fixed. He needs to be respected. The wound isn't a flaw to hide, but a source of wisdom to integrate. Every true warrior carries scars. The difference is that some let their wounds weaken them, while others transform them into strength. The process of healing the wounded warrior doesn't involve denying the pain, but embracing it. It means stopping the pretense that everything is fine when it's not. It means admitting that yes, you've been hurt, and that pain has influenced your choices, your relationships, your way of being in the world. It means shedding the tears you never cried, feeling the anger you always suppressed, admitting the fear you always denied. But here's the secret few know. When the wounded warrior stops running from the pain and faces it, something magical happens. The wound becomes a portal. Weakness becomes compassion. Fear becomes courage. Anger becomes justice. Sadness becomes depth. The healed warrior isn't the one who was never wounded, but the one who has transformed his wounds into wisdom. He no longer needs to prove his strength because he knows it intimately. He no longer needs external validation because he's found internal validation. He no longer needs to control everything because he's learned to trust the process of life. This integrated warrior accesses powers the wounded warrior never dreamed of. He can be strong without being cruel. He can lead without dominating. He can protect without controlling. He can love without losing himself. He can fight for just causes without destroying himself. Society desperately needs these healed warriors. Not the wounded warriors who cause the most pain in the world, nor the sleeping warriors who make no difference, but the warriors who have transformed their pain into purpose, their wounds into a mission, and their healing into service to others. The quest for the lost. Inner father. Within every man lives an orphan, not necessarily because he lost his biological father, but because he's lost connection with the deep paternal energy that should reside within him. Jung discovered that this lack of an inner father is one of the primary causes of the contemporary masculine void, an ancestral hunger that no external conquest can satisfy. The inner father isn't a person, it's a principle. It's the wise voice within you that knows which path to take when everything is confusing. It's the strength that says, you are capable, when the world says otherwise. It's the presence that provides structure when your life is chaotic. It's the guide that shows you the way when you're lost in the dark. For most men, this voice is silent. This guide is missing. This strength is asleep. And they spend their lives searching for it in the wrong places, in bosses, mentors, authority figures, waiting for someone external to give them what can only come from within. The absence of the inner father creates a specific kind of psychic hunger, a hunger for direction, for approval, for a sense of purpose that transcends mere survival. It's a hunger to feel part of something greater, to carry a meaningful mission, to know that your existence has profound significance. Jung observed that men who lack connection with their inner father lead reactive lives. They react to events rather than create them. They follow scripts written by others instead of writing their own. They seek permission where they should take responsibility. They wait for life to happen to them instead of making life happen through them. Modern society has exacerbated this wound in ways Jung couldn't have imagined. Increasingly absent biological parents, consumed by work or their own unhealed wounds. Social structures that have fragmented communities where boys once learned to become men by observing other men. Masculine role models distorted by media, showing only superficial facets of masculinity. The result is a generation of men who grew up without true initiation, without meaningful rites of passage, without authentic mentors to guide them from childhood to adulthood. They may have adult bodies and responsibilities, but they carry within them a lost boy searching for a father he never found. The quest for the lost father manifests in ways that aren't always obvious. Some become eternal rebels, fighting all authority because they're really fighting the absence of a healthy internal authority. Others become overly submissive, constantly seeking someone to tell them what to do because they never developed their own internal compass. The truth Jung uncovered is both liberating and terrifying. No one can give you the inner father you've lost. No mentor, no matter how wise, no boss, no matter how inspiring, no guru, no matter how enlightened. The inner father can only be awakened from within, through a process that requires courage, patience, and a willingness to grow, even if it hurts. Awakening the inner father begins with a radical decision: to stop waiting to be saved and take responsibility for your own life. Not just external responsibility, paying bills, keeping commitments, but a deep responsibility to become who you truly are, regardless of what others expect or approve. This process isn't smooth. It means confronting all the moments you betrayed yourself to please others. It means admitting where you gave away your personal power. It means accepting that you are the author of your story, not a victim of circumstances. It means stopping the blame of an absent father, a controlling mother, an unjust society, and starting to build from where you are now. When the inner father awakens, everything changes. You stop seeking external validation because you find internal validation. You stop following others' scripts because you discover your own. You stop feeling lost because you develop your own compass. You stop feeling small because you connect to something greater that lives within you. The man who finds his inner father becomes his own father, not in a selfish sense, but in the deepest sense. He takes full responsibility for his growth, his healing, his contribution to the world. And paradoxically, the more he becomes a father to himself, the more capable he becomes of being a father, mentor, or guide to others who are still searching. The myth of masculine independence. The greatest lie taught to men is that they must be independent, that needing others is a sign of weakness, that vulnerability is a flaw, that asking for help is an admission of failure. Jung discovered that this lie not only isolates men but kills them from within, creating a loneliness so deep they don't even know how to name it. From a young age, boys learn a cruel lesson. A real man gets by on his own. When they fall and cry, they're told, "Get up and stop crying." When they need help, they're told, "You need to figure it out." When they show fear, they're told, "A man isn't afraid of anything." Each of these phrases is a brick building a prison around their capacity to connect. The result is devastating. Adult men who would rather die than admit their suffering, who choose isolation over seeking support, who build emotional walls so high they can't climb them themselves, who live their entire lives without a single deep friendship, without a real conversation about their fears, dreams, or pains. Jung understood that this masculine independence is actually a prison disguised as freedom. The man who believes he needs no one is, in reality, desperately dependent but unable to admit this need, even to himself. He's like a castaway who refuses a lifeboat because it would make him seem weak. Modern society has intensified this illusion in a cruel way. The measure of success has become the ability to depend on no one. The masculine ideal has become the lone wolf, the self-made man, the entrepreneur who built everything from scratch. But it's a fantasy. No one builds anything truly alone. Behind every successful man are dozens of people who supported, guided, or carried him. The irony is that the most independent men are often the most dependent, but in unhealthy ways. They depend on alcohol to relax. They depend on work to feel valued. They depend on achievements to confirm their existence. They depend on social roles to know who they are. They've simply traded healthy human dependencies for destructive ones that don't threaten their image of strength. Jung discovered that behind the mask of masculine independence lies a deep fear, the fear of abandonment. The man who insists he needs no one is often the one who fears rejection the most. He prefers chosen solitude to the possibility of imposed solitude. Better to be alone by decision than risk being abandoned. This false independence comes at a high cost. Men die earlier, not only from physical issues, but because they lack an emotional support network. They have higher suicide rates because they face their crises alone. They develop more stress-related illnesses because they have no one to share their burdens with. They live in a desert because they've cut the ties that give life meaning. The myth of masculine independence also destroys relationships. How can a man who believes he should need no one create true intimacy? How can he be vulnerable with his partner if vulnerability is weakness? How can he ask for support in tough times if it shatters his image as a strong provider? The truth Jung revealed is revolutionary. Interdependence isn't weakness, it's strength. The most powerful men in history weren't independent, they were deeply connected. They had mentors who guided them, partners who supported them, friends who challenged them, communities that carried them. They understood that true strength comes from the ability to give and receive support. Breaking the myth of masculine independence requires a different kind of courage. Not the courage to face external enemies, but the courage to face your own vulnerability. It means admitting that yes, you need others, that yes, sometimes you don't know what to do, that yes, you have fears, doubts, insecurities, that yes, you're human. This shift doesn't happen overnight. Decades of conditioning don't collapse easily, but it starts with small steps. Sharing a problem with a friend, asking for help when you're overwhelmed, admitting when you don't understand something, expressing gratitude to those who support you, creating spaces where you can be authentic without fear of judgment. The man who breaks the myth of independence discovers something extraordinary. He doesn't become weaker, he becomes stronger. because he now has access to the power of community, collaboration, and mutual support. He multiplies his strength instead of limiting it. He builds bridges instead of walls. He creates a legacy that surpasses what anyone could achieve alone. 6. The broken ancestral bond. There's an echo resonating deep within the masculine soul, an ancient voice that most modern men can no longer hear. Jung discovered that men today live disconnected from the ancestral lineage of masculine wisdom, like trees uprooted from their roots, trying to survive in barren soil. For thousands of years, boys became men through rituals, traditions, and teachings, passed down from generation to generation. There were masculine communities where the deep secrets of how to live, love, work, and die were shared through stories, shared experiences, and direct guidance. There was a continuity, a golden thread connecting the past, present, and future. All of that has been broken. The Industrial Revolution tore men from their communities. Modernity ridiculed ancestral traditions as superstitions. Urbanization fragmented multi-generational families. Individualism turned every man into an isolated island. In just a few generations, we've lost a heritage of wisdom built over millennia. Jung understood that this rupture has left modern men orphaned in a profound sense. They haven't just lost connection with their direct ancestors, but with the entire ancestral way of understanding what it means to be a man. It's like a musician losing not only the sheet music, but also the memory of how the music should sound. The effects of this disconnection are devastating. Modern men invent their masculinity from scratch, without solid references, trying to figure out alone what previous generations taught through living tradition. It's like trying to build a house without blueprints, tools, or architectural knowledge. It's possible, but infinitely harder, and often with disastrous results. This loss of the ancestral bond manifests in subtle but profound ways. Men feel something fundamental is missing from their lives, but they can't say what. They experience a loneliness that goes beyond a lack of people around them. It's the loneliness of being disconnected from their own lineage. They feel like they're improvising a role they should know instinctively. Modern society has tried to replace this ancient wisdom with self-help books, life coaches, and success guides. But these superficial solutions can't replace the depth that comes from a tradition tested by hundreds of generations. It's like trying to replace an ancient forest with plastic plants. It may look green from a distance, but there's no real life. Jung discovered that in the collective masculine unconscious, the echoes of this lost wisdom still resonate. Deep archetypes carry ancestral memories of hunting, protecting, building, leading, and rites of passage. But for most men, these archetypes are dormant, buried under layers of modern social conditioning. The disconnection from ancestors has also deprived men of authentic models of healthy aging. In traditional cultures, elder men were treasures of wisdom, respected for their knowledge and sought for their guidance. Today, men fear aging because they see no value in old age, no defined role as elders, no way to be useful when they're no longer productive in a capitalist sense. Reconnecting with the ancestral heritage doesn't mean returning to caves or rejecting modernity. It means seeking timeless principles from ancient traditions that remain valid today. It means honoring the wisdom of ancestors while adapting it to contemporary challenges. It means recognizing that you're part of a lineage far greater than your individual life. This reconnection can start simply but powerfully. Learn your family's history, not just names and dates, but the struggles, victories, and wisdom of your male ancestors. Study ancient spiritual traditions that honored the masculine journey. Create personal rituals to mark significant life transitions. Seek older mentors who carry some of this lost wisdom. It also means recognizing that you are an ancestor to the men who will come after you, that your choices, your healing, your growth impact not only you, but your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Breaking destructive patterns in your life, breaks them for them too. Healing your masculine lineage is a sacred duty. When a man reconnects with his ancestral heritage, something profound awakens in him. He stops feeling like an isolated experiment and recognizes himself as part of a greater continuity. He stops inventing masculinity from scratch and begins drawing on tested wisdom. He stops feeling lost and finds his place in a story far bigger than his individual life.